Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. But is it even a Mordian Glory video, or is it actually a Mordi Bro video? For he is joining me once again. Mirror Universe Spock has come across the come across to the alternate dimension, across the rift, and he's here for another BroCast. How are you doing, oh dearest brother of mine?
It's good to be back. So looking forward to a chat and that kind of thing. What have we got on the menu tonight?
More Konflikt 47, because I can't get enough of it. And a bit of Warhammer 40k, because we like a bit of Warhammer 40k. So there we go.
Okay.
And I think it's good to say that your glorious triumphant return to last week was very well received. Lots and lots of nice comments and everything. So which is nice.
Guys, it was very nice. Nice to be well received. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, let's just dive straight into it, because I especially have a tendency to have the intros go on for like 10 minutes before I actually get to anything like important. So let's dive straight into our latest Konflikt 47 battle report after action report. Starting off with my leading sentiment of I both love and loathe Schreckwolfen.
2 games. They've won it for me 2 times. Absolutely clutch unit. I cannot get enough of them. Fast, deadly, ridiculously tough. Toughness 7. Walking around with like armored car level toughness is just so good.
It's like a squad of 6 armored cars.
Exactly.
What do you think about it?
Crazy.
So I was a quick thing to say. If you've not seen the battle report, there will be a link to it down in the description below, and of course there will be spoilers. So if you don't want to hear those, make sure, because we're going to get into them straight away, make sure you go and watch that battle report and then come back here. Not to discourage you for watching this video, but if you don't want to see spoilers, that's the way to do it. Now, getting into the Schreckwolfen. So 2 games in a row, they have won you the game. And both times it was a lone Schreckwolfen. So
this time I added Schreckwolfen, and
I was prepared to do it with 5, not with 6. Yeah. But
it's great.
You go first.
Well, no, it's just great. You can take 6. This time it was a bit of an interesting game because, obviously, for people who tuned in sort of a couple of weeks ago, waxed lyrical on how capable they are in the maneuvers game. This time, for those who've already watched it, of course, there was only one objective. So there was going to be a lot less maneuvering. But this time I lent on their speed to time grabbing the objective when I thought, okay, this is the time to drive you off and take it. And then, again, sort of lent on that speed to just make a jump 8 inches through rough ground, which is great. And then on top of that, or run, so to speak, to be technical. And then after that, lent on their toughness. And they did still have the ability to kill off units. And a 6-man squad is a big unit as well, which meant they were able to move to counter while still maintaining control of the objective and making sure I had at least one model within 3 inches, which stopped you from claiming the objective back, even when you had overwhelming odds.
Yep.
So it just came down to you've got to kill the Schreckwolfen. And they were tough enough that I could get another unit, what are they called? The Stahltruppen. The Stahltruppen. I could get the Stahltruppen from their position midfield, holding the flank onto the objective. And then you had to kill 2 toughness 7 units. And that is just a big ask.
It's a big ask.
The Kodiak, which is like skyrocketed to one of my favorite units. I absolutely love the American Army, by the way.
It's so the meat chopper on steroids, isn't it? It's just like
24 50 cal shots. And Pamphlet 1, I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. But with Stahltruppen being toughness 7, they barely put out any damage. Genuine, they weren't doing any kills. And that was partly my dice. And then I've noticed over a couple of games now, I've picked up the pattern that they can part the firepower of like a normal squad of like 10 infantry. But that's not much to write home about. And I think you found that with your veteran old guard, the guys that didn't have any rift tech.
Oh, the old timers. Yeah.
The old timers, you just sort of, they don't put out enough standard small arm fire to actually have a massive impact on all the power armor and extra toughness out there.
Yeah.
But boy, are those guys tough. And it was just, once the Shrekwolfen had the toughness to buy me some time, got the Style Trooping on there as well. And between those two units, 2 toughness 7 infantry units, wow, like amazing. You're not taking an objective off those, even with like Kodiak. An army pointing at them. You had a Kodiak, you had another Walker, multiple squads of infantry, you know, probably 1,000 points just pouring rounds into these 2 units, and they would not die. And it was really cool because, like, obviously I was sweating. I thought, I'm not going to win this.
He was sweating.
Everything else around them was dead, but didn't matter, because by the time the smoke cleared and the other units were dead, it didn't matter if you had basically a full army. I just had 2 squads of toughness 7 infantry. You could not push me off that objective. And in a multiple objective game, you know, one of the things we spoke about to go full circle was the maneuvers game. If you've only got 8 dice at 1,500 points, 6 foot by 4 foot board, if you've got D3 plus 4 objectives, or, you know, multiple objectives on the battlefield, it's hard to cling on to an objective whilst also hold other territory or take other ground, other objectives. And the maneuverability last week allowed me to run between your units and get the objectives that I needed. Yeah. This time, you know, it sort of made me realize that in a multiple objective game, just one of these units, considering your forces would be more spread out, would be enough to just hold that ball game. If you're a classic bolt action player, and you know you can lock an objective down with a squad of veterans, and it's hard to shift them and take that objective. These guys in the Rift, the toughness 7 infantry units, they're the equivalent. They're the ones you can lump onto an objective and probably hold it all game.
So I would push back slightly on that. I would push back slightly on that, just because I think it was a great display of the toughness of the Shrekwolfen and the Style Trooper, but it was also, and this is a really, really valid point, because you don't want people to hear that and go, wow, well, damage value 7 is so overpowered. I will take a pure army of Style Trooper and I will be undefeatable. And the reality is that actually the reason why they were so tough is because I didn't have the right tools in my list. There was actually a very clear moment when when some of your tough units were not that hard for you to deal with, and that was when my Tesla rifles just popped off on the Paragon squad, and suddenly you were like, oh, I'm on like no cover save.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think damage value 7 dug into cover is like really like legit, like really tough. But what I love about Konflikt 47, absolutely love, cannot say this enough, will scream this from the rooftops, is there is a tool in every single army that will allow you to deal with every single threat that you're going to come across. And what I mean by that is there's not a tool that fixes everything. There's a tool for each scenario. So like my list had, if I had instead of that Grizzly, if I had a Tesla Sherman in that list, so basically same points, would have been a different story. And that Tesla Sherman just stayed behind the lines, just not going into the ruin. Like the Grizzly had to risk going into the ruin. And anytime, the moment your Shrekwolfen came in, I'd just be like, okay, so I'm going to be wounding you on 5s because I'm pen 2, which is perfectly reasonable, and can get 7 dice with Arsenal of Democracy, and also I ignore cover. So suddenly you're not on a 2-up save, you're on a 5-up save.
Yeah, and then melt pretty quick.
And then they melt very quickly.
That's what we're learning, isn't it? We're learning our craft with a K, if that makes sense. Which is that
meme keeps on giving, by the way. You should just add a K in front of everything. Yeah,
it works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think we're learning our craft, and we're learning what tools apply to what jobs. And no, I totally agree with you on that. But again, that gives you that depth, that playability, that like delicious, juicy meat on the bone the tactics when you're playing a game and adapting in real time, which is if you can force them to commit those troops elsewhere, if you can get rid of those troops playing ahead, knowing what your ultimate plan is, what objectives are, I'm going to reposition onto that objective with my style troop. And you've made sure that Tesla guys have had to commit in a place they're not going to get back to the style troop and in the back. So it's with the one objective, you could have had any tool you wanted in position where you needed it.
Yeah.
But when you're playing across a full 6x4 board, there's only so much Tesla you're going to have in an army, because you're going to want the other tools for the other jobs as well.
I guess that's where the play comes in, the back and forth. So you've got strategy, and I say list building is sort of strategy, and then actually playing the game is tactics. And that's where the tactics come in, because it's a case of you need to be able to make sure that from turn to turn, your tools are in the right places, and your opponent at the same time, you need to be trying to take away your opponent's tools as well. And that's what makes it a game of cat and mouse. That's what makes it a clash of titans, as it were. That's what makes it a good war game, not a board game, because it's actually like both players are, it's thrust and counter thrust. It's play and counterplay. It's attack and counter attack.
It's a proper. Both matches, that was the big theme of like what we were discussing last week. What we kept coming back to is that, this is a proper war game, so much tactical depth, and it's just so satisfying to play. And now the more we kind of scratch away at the surface of Konflikt 47, brush off the dust of the, arcane artifacts from the Rift and so on, we're realizing, more and more that holds true, if that makes sense. And one thing you mentioned was flipping Armory of Democracy. Oh my God. My head in my hands at some points during that game. Oh my gosh, it is so painful. But it's a solid rule, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's great, because you're still in the bolt action world to a degree. It's a bolt action based system, right?
Yeah.
So rerolls isn't really a thing.
Yeah.
And rerolls are totally a valid system. It doesn't ruin any game. You can over egg the omelette, so to speak.
But when used, as with anything, in moderation, it can be a very appropriate tool to have.
It was a little bit of a shock to be facing rerolls in a system. I was like, what? And you're like, and for every multi-shot weapon, I was just like, what is going on here?
I know the exact moment that baked you. Let me say very quickly, the exact moment that baked your fucking noodle, that got you, that made you were like, you literally, there was throwing hands up in the air, was when I was like, okay, so I'm going to assign this rift dice to this unit. Oh, it's exhausted. Oh, it's okay. Tesla's gift. I'll re-roll it because they've got a Tesla weapon. You were like, what? Why are you going to re-roll a rift dice? And I went, I get to re-roll any rift dice assigned to a Tesla unit. And you were like, what? And then it came up surging. So then I immediately activated the surging dice. I got more Tesla rifle shots out. I hit with 4 out of 6 shots. And you were like, oh, well, that's not so bad. I mean, that's a little. No, then you went, oh, and then you went hit one. I went, wait, re-rolled one of the misses and got a hit as well. And you were like, what? So you just get all the re-rolls? And I was like, yes.
It was very much a 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Purple Sun moment. That's gone perfectly for him. I'm cooked now. Do you know what I mean? But you got to keep the faith. I always say that the number one route to victory when you're wargaming is to keep the faith. And it was so delectable, so delicious, sort of seeing both of our demeanors change over turn 4, 5, and 6. Because by the end of turn 3, I'm sure you would be happy to admit that my dice were getting laughable. It was, I was like, oh my God, when am I do you know what I mean? I think I rolled a 1 to hit with my Panther out 5 turns or something like that.
I mean, it never killed anything. It never killed anything. And then I rolled a 1 to, with the round gun. I just rolled a 1 out of 2 dice every single turn. And that was just the name of the game for me for the first few turns. So I was just getting eaten alive, 2 dice down to your 8, 3 dice down to yours. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh my gosh,
you're in the death spiral at that point. But then just keeping the faith, just sort of keeping my head in the game, and sort of, you know, the dice always pan out at the end of the day sometimes. Well, most of the time. And your dice turned against you. At that point, I'd been burning all my ones on my Railgun Panther, but that meant that I wasn't rolling those ones on my hard to kill, hard cover Shrek-Wolfen. So I'd sort of used all my ones up at that point, if you might say. I'd used all my bad dice. And it was just like, turn 5, it was like, so what you're saying is there's a chance. Yeah. And then it was kind of becoming more and more apparent that you weren't going to win this game from like an absolute, like, clearly controlled that objective, but that objective's still mine. You couldn't flip it. I still had units within 3 inches. And it's just great when you slowly but surely the table turns. How the turntables
keep turning. And what I love about Konflikt 47 is I can tell you this hand on heart, if that scenario had happened in Warhammer 40k, I would have been terribly vexed. It would have vexed me terribly.
But it's such a fun game that you don't even mind that kind of thing.
And also, let me just riff for 1 second, because I actually have an explanation. It's more than just fun, and we have the fun bit, and that's a good point that we know we want to make this video. But I lost that game and I wasn't upset that I lost that game, not only because I had a lot of fun, but because the reason I lost that game made sense and didn't feel like bullshit. Okay. And I can tell you exactly, because I lost that game because I had a problem in my list building, and I also lost my 1 Tesla unit, which was the Paragons. And the moment that I lost that tool in my arsenal, things started to get a lot harder for me. And that's okay. That makes sense. I had a gap in my capabilities. And on top of that, you took away one of my capabilities. This meant that I would then start struggling, and it started putting the ball back in my court. It wasn't a case of, just blah, blah, blah. No, it was like, no, I'm struggling to kill these guys for a very understandable reason. I can learn what that reason is, and the next time we play, I can get better, and I won't, and even if, and I can close that gap off, and that's me being able to learn lessons and apply them. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's
it's exactly, and from the other side of the coin, it became very apparent that if I wanted to take that objective and hold it, there was 1 unit above all others that had to go. There was 1 unit that had identified, your Paragons, that was going to get in the way of that. And so using Shrek-Wolfen to pounce on the Paragons and rip them apart meant that, but again, talking about that mobility, the large base size and the large unit size, being able to stay near the objective but still reach out and grab you whilst you were in threat range of me, meant that once I'd done that was the tipping point where the game started to go in my favor. And then, I could exploit that, and in many ways you couldn't exploit the advantages of the Paragons anymore. And so I think it's a really good point that you make, which is, you learn. I mean, this is sort of the joy of it, isn't it? We're learning the game, and that is like very satisfying just in and of itself. And there's so much to learn as well, because it's a big game. It's like, feels like a new game. Do you know what I mean? It's a new game to us. K47 been going a while, but it's very much a new war game now, with plenty of models, and Warlord have stuck with it, supported it. There's a massive catalogue of unit options available for you to sort of enjoy. And it's one of the big reasons why I feel like I left Games Workshop games at the right time, because it became very apparent that the choice and the options, the list building, which is like a lot of the fun and a lot of the as you get older and life gets in the way of being able to war game like 4 times a week like we used to when we were in our 20s, like, you know what I mean? It's for war gaming. A lot of the joy comes from the thinking, the planning, the prepping. That's the hobby you can do. Like, I'm going to show my age here, but drawing foot and mouth, our dad had a friend a customer who ran a fish and tackle shop, fishing shop, said when Foot and Mouth was around and no one could go fishing, that was when that was his best year financially, because people couldn't fish. They spent more time and more money thinking about, obsessing over and buying more stuff from his shop. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of...
They're still going to scratch their itch. It's the hobby. They're not going to not do the hobby.
It's still the obsession. It's still their hobby. Do you know what I mean? And when you like building a list for a GW system, you're like, boop, 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 done. Right, what do I do now? Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's part of GW's big brain strategy, which is like, well, they've built the list. Now what they're going to do, they're going to build models and paint to scratch the itch. So maybe I'm wrong. But for me, that's one of the things I enjoy. And I'm just like, the K47, it's like a whole new experience, a whole new buffet to try a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And that talks about the tools for the toolkit. Every time you play a game, you're going to be like, okay, what do I need? How do I fix that? And that's kind of what we've taken away from our last game for sure.
100%.
And I just find it absolutely hilarious that you played a game with your daughters of, what are they called? Daughters of the Motherland.
There you go. I'm purposely not saying it because every time you ask me, I say muscle mummies, and that actually has thrown you off. So it is Daughters of the Motherland.
Well, you like need more Daughters of the Motherland. Now you've played Americans, you're like,
need more Paragons.
What were your thoughts overall on the US as a faction? I, as the opponent, was like, wow, these guys are mobile. They can take 10 in every unit. Every unit can be mobile. Bit more squishy. I think saw a comment on that I want to respond to, if that makes sense. Yeah. Someone asked, I'm not sure who, so, you know, shout out to you, whoever you are, stranger of the internet. But they said, like, the more we get into it, are we starting to see what each faction kind of represents, each play style, you think? And I'm seeing the Americans as like mobile firepower, and I'm seeing the Axis as very much, they're tough. They're really, really, really tough. Every unit seems hard as nails, if that makes sense. Ability, but I'm finding myself lacking in the firepower realm every game. So which is very interesting, because as a bolt action player, often the Axis
are the shooty ones.
The shooty ones in many respects, not always, but in many respects.
So for me,
cool in bolt. Sorry, just to carry on riffing.
It's okay.
It's cool because in bolt, may I riff?
You may riff.
In bolt action, a lot of the factions, it's not a criticism, it's supposed to be this way. A lot of the factions have the same bread and butter, the same feel, and it's kind of the special rules which give you that flavor and add a little bit of twist to the play style.
In bolt action, I find that a lot of the differentiation between the armies actually comes down to the player choosing to do it that way. So everyone can run basically veteran spam with medium tanks, for example. But
everyone could run conscripts or Helens or whatever.
Exactly. But what you find is like, someone will choose to play the Soviets in that iconic enemy at the gates way. And it's the players that have chosen to do that, not necessarily because it's the most tactically sound thing to do, because that's the feeling they want to get from that army that day. But everyone could literally just turn up with regulars and tanks, and everyone would feel the same.
Yeah, exactly. You could just write a mirror match if that's what you wanted to do. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in Konflikt 47. Can everyone do everything and it's just down to the player? Or if you want mobility and firepower, do you go for the Americans? If you want toughness and numbers, do you go for the Soviets? If you want resilience and speed, do you go for the Axis powers? So, more to be discovered in that realm as well.
So for me, for the Americans, because you asked me how did I feel for them to play, I feel like there's two very distinctive play styles to the Americans, and you should probably, whilst you can mix and match, Actually, I think it's totally okay to mix and match. But the two sort of distinctive playstyles are you have the slow, you have basically what I would describe as the Imperial Guard, and then you have like the Tempestus Scions, if you were to talk sort of 40k terms. So the Imperial Guard side of things is going to be like your Kodiaks, your Grizzlies, your more analog style mechs, stomping forward kind of stuff, your Tesla Shermans, your Tesla Greyhounds. Again, just your more traditional feeling armor. And then your infantry, you'd lead into things like your regular rifle squads, but maybe you'd give them things like rifle grenades and the missile launchers that they've got a bit of pen so they can deal with some of the bigger threats that are coming across. But also you'd lead into the heavy infantry. This is something you've not seen for the Americans yet. They actually get their own power armored guys. And what's interesting is Americans have got a different, and I love that this is reflected in the units. There's a lore thing that gets reflected tabletop. Whilst the Axis have really let into power armor as a frontline, mass-produced thing that we put on every squad that we can, the Americans believe in small unit tactics when it comes to their power armor. So the American power armor can only be taken in squads of 3 to 6, whereas the Axis start off at 6 and can go up to 12, which is kind of interesting. But the Axis, their power armor guys start off with assault rifles, and the Americans, their power armor guys started with LMGs, so they get a lot more firepower. So the idea is that the power armor guys they're slow, they're not fast, they're just normal moving with lots of firepower. And so that kind of feels like if you lead into like the power armor and the regular rifle guys and your Tesla Shermans and your Tesla Cromwells and your linebackers and your Grizzly, that feels like you're playing the Imperial Guard. Not particularly mobile, but an insane amount of firepower when you think about Arsenal of Democracy and stuff like that. I'd combine that with guts as well, and oh my god, you're going to be having Kodiaks firing 2 times in a turn consistently.
I feel like I'm referring to you as the arsehole of democracy.
The arsehole of democracy. But then on the other side, the complete opposite playstyle, you've got Wish.com Eldar, Wish.com Dark Eldar, which is the Tempestus Scions. And that's how, Tempestus Scions in 40k were always described as like, if you're an Imperial player, but you don't like nipple rings, you can play Tempestus Scions and get the same feeling as playing Dark Eldar. And so that, and I have to say, I really, really enjoyed and that's with the Fireflies. The Fireflies. That the other side of the American coin is speed and mobility. It's maneuver warfare. You can move, your basic troops can move 18 inches and then move 2d6s again after that, and all this.
12 and fire, man.
12 and fire, yeah.
Bolt, the electric Tommy guns and stuff.
And then they've got
the pen +1.
And they've got the pen, just like Scions have got +1, those hotshot las guns. The Fireflies have got the hotshot Tommy guns, essentially. I might nickname them that. They're going to be called the hotshots now, going forward, because it feels right for that gun.
And they were so cool. I could, when you get a sort of a mental image, the theatre of the mind, to borrow a Dungeons and Dragons term. But when you dropped your Fireflies behind my fidget spinner and just unleashed E-bolts from the hip into his back, and you could almost see flashes of blue just slowly like peeling the armor apart. Great. So they're light infantry, light mobile infantry, but they can't just be countered with a bit of light armor because they'll maneuver. They could jump with the flipping jump, shoot, jump and stuff. You could outmaneuver that and potentially jump behind if you're in the right position first turn if you're not deep striking. And of course, deep striking too. Really cool. Really, really cool. So
I can deep strike mechs,
Very excited by the Americans, I think.
As a Dark Elder player, they feel,
As a Dark Elder player, they made me very jealous facing them. I definitely want to try those ones out. You
could actually deep strike some of the American mechs as well. Which so for example, I've got one here. This is one that the Brits and the Americans can take. Actually, I'll show it in the right colors. This is the Mud Skipper, and it comes with 2 HMGs, an MMG, and 2 autocannons, and it can deep strike down behind.
What else do you want to shoot something in the back? Perfect.
And you can actually give it 2 bazookas instead of the HMG, so it can drop down and fired 2 point-blank bazooka shots.
Although I think, if you're deep striking against light armor and then pushing an objective on a flank or something like that, being able to deep strike and have Dacus, you're not relying on just a couple of shots to do the job, and you're just actually peeling the armor away with multiple pen weapons. That's great. That's a beautiful combination.
And they get they get the light mechs as well. So what's kind of interesting is they get the light mechs as well. And this is the British one, so this one can't deep strike, but they get the Jackal Jump Walker. Now, it only comes with an MMG, but you can pay for it to have a flamethrower. So you could deep strike down behind and flame someone, which could be enough to take them out with panic and fear.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you're getting rid of those style trooping. Keep one of those in your back pocket. Little investment. I'm assuming not too much. And
105 points base, 135 with the flamethrower.
Which is where you're playing 1,500 points of standard. A couple of those in your back pocket. That's about having the right tool for the job and being able to whip it out when you need to. Yeah. Which means that it takes away the option of countering it or drawing it. And then your opponent's going to have to really force your hand to commit it elsewhere, if that makes sense.
I'll tell you one thing I just realized, man. So going back to we're talking tools in the toolbox. Tools in the toolbox. I love the more we dig, the more we learn. The more we dig, the more we learn. We're like those Shrek Wolfen in that fucking church. The more we dig, the more we learn.
That's into this situation in the first place.
Yeah.
So the power.
Yeah. Each Firefly squad can take a flamethrower. Now, at first, I didn't bother with that because it's like a 20-point upgrade, and I'm like, they're already quite expensive. But I'm thinking, dude, if I'd had flamethrowers on my Fireflies against you in that church, those Shrek Wolfen would have died. Would have easily died. It doesn't matter about the fearless. It matters that flamethrowers ignore cover.
Yeah.
So every unit in my army could either have Tesla or a flamer, and every unit in my army would have some weapon that could ignore cover. Imagine if I had 2 Firefly squads boost forward, burning you out with flamethrowers.
Light up those demons.
Light up, boys! I love the smell of Promethium in the morning.
Good old-fashioned kerosene.
It's almost like Warlord Games play-tested this thing, and we're like, there's going to be scenarios when Fireflies are going to encounter Shrek Wolfen. They're not, how do we allow them to be able to handle that threat? Oh, I know. Give the players an option to pay for the flamethrower. And I don't know why, but in my mind, I can imagine for some reason, the Warlord Games people, being like, oh, should we make it mandatory? Because it's a really useful weapon. And Warlord Games, like a father watching his kid stick a finger in a plug socket for the first time, was like, no, he's got to learn why he needs that flamethrower option.
Yeah, for sure. I also imagine that it could well have been play tested, but it could have also been John just walking into the lab whilst people are rolling dice and being like, needs flamethrowers, and then just walking out again. Yeah.
It'd be pretty cool. It would be very interesting if they had flamethroers.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of tools in the tool chest. Things that are just still very exciting. A month in, we're still, I'm still loving it. You've been on the K47 wagon a while.
Oh, well, honestly, I've only played 4 games, and the first 2 games
prep as well. You don't just grow those armies overnight. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
You've been thinking, you've been machinating. Yes.
Yeah,
no, I do a lot. That dude, in terms of sort of final thoughts, maybe on
the Nachtjäger, yeah.
The Nachtjäger, I don't think I necessarily played them wrong from the knowledge that I had about how they functioned, but I certainly played them wrong from a lack of awareness about what the Americans could achieve and the Tesla weapons. So I sort of thought, right, I'll put them behind obscuring, you won't be able to see them, and then they can jump 12 inches into cover. If you go for that objective, I'm just going to swoop down from the belfry, just disappear you off into the air. Jobs are good and chop you up. They weren't going to be my holding unit because, not hard to kill or anything like that. They're very much mobile glass cannon. But then when I found out the Tesla ignored cover, I was quickly like, I see. I mean, Yeah, so
they
they
were a great example of when I had the right tool and applied it, I was rewarded.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be interesting because it's also, you've got to build that awareness of sort of what all the opponent's armies can do as well. So there's a big sort of earned skill tier the K47 has the potential to have an earned skill tier. If you've played a lot of a particular war game and you've really earned your stripes, so to speak, it's because you've played against every faction, you've run every faction, or thereabouts, or got experience with them, and you kind of know what to do in every situation.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, if someone is a more experienced player, they should have a better chance of winning, as opposed to, a game system where you can just sort of buy the best list and just rock up and use that for 3 months, and you'll just beat people who are literally better than you at the game. It rankles me. I love playing against people who are better than me and losing, because I can learn so much from that. And that's how you earn your stripes at the end of the day. So again, I just really appreciate that the system's going to have those legs, and that kind of, when you are winning a lot of games, you'll have earned it, if that makes sense, as opposed to you've just paid to win.
I absolutely, by the way, I was checking something that's relevant for our conversation in a moment. Don't worry, I wasn't being rude looking down. I had a thought. You prompted me to have a thought, and I had to investigate it before I forgot. So I absolutely agree. And I think it's one of those reasons that I think you can walk away from a loss from K47 and not feel so terribly frustrated, because
it's like, oh my gosh, that was, I know, you know what I mean? I see now.
Yeah, no, but for me, what I mean is, I think in both of the games of Konflikt 47 that we've played, you have outplayed me, and there's no shame in admitting that. I think there's if I want to make an excuse, and of course, got to get this barrage of covering fire in there. But I think obviously there's always the element of I'm doing the filming, so I'm a little distracted. So I'm not thinking as many turns ahead as if I would be if I were just playing like in a tournament, for example. But it's also an element of I'm not switching my brain on as much, because I'm just kind of happy to be here, frankly, and to be playing the game. Yeah, and I'm just happy to be playing the game, and I'm happy that we're playing games again and all that kind of stuff. So but putting that to one side, I could come away from both of those games and go, okay, I can see that Johnny timed things a little bit better than me. Like, I made a mistake with my Paragons. Johnny kind of timed his push with the Shrek Wolfen perfectly. And so I walk away from a game going, I wasn't beaten because some dude pulled a net list off the internet and bummed me with it. And I know he's not a better player than me, but he still beat me because he just brought some sweaty, cheesy stuff. Like, that's not fair. I actually could come away from that game and go, I lost that game, and it was okay to lose that game because I was outplayed, and the person who was the better player won, and that's the way it should be. And I think that's such a different thing.
Well, some people are into boxing, MMA, combat sports, Muay Thai, all of that. Some people, and train hard, fight easy kind of thing is the sort of mentality from that. And some people are into wargaming and, fighting their mind, one mind against the other. Or that's one perspective you could take from it. Some people are just happy to show up.
Yeah.
So, there's all different reasons, all different motivations. But certainly, I think what leaves a bitter taste in the mouth of a lot of war gamers is when they, not through arrogance, think I should have won that game because I'm a better player, but because that might not be it. But when you just lose because someone just has better options, has a better army, it's just an argument that's gone on for quite literally decades in 40k of like, oh well, I lost against flipping the Golden Boys.
That's a bad matchup. That faction just plays badly into that faction. It's like,
yeah, that takes away. There's just no point. There's just no point in that game. There's no point in the time spent in that game apart from the interaction with the player having a bit of fun. If you're matching up against someone and you're playing a game system where you're in a bad matchup, then don't make it easy for them. Fight the best you can. You might learn how to beat that army eventually. But the flip side is sometimes it is just impossible, like, you know, on a tournament level. And so just enjoy hanging out with the dude across the table from me and have a laugh.
Yeah.
And more get into the lore and the cinematics and that kind of thing. Because otherwise, you are getting nothing out of that game.
Yeah.
If you don't have fun with your opponent and you just go, well, lol, I'm going to lose this, but I'm not going to make it easy for you, bro. And then you honor yourself in giving the best you can.
Yeah.
And also you have a laugh and earn the respect of your opponent, make a new friend, maybe, you know, becomes a friendly face you see at other events and that kind of thing. That's what you will get out of the game. There's no point kind of being, well, I'm going to lose this game, so I'm just going to be in a huff for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know, and in my younger days, I've done that. So this is just, you know, this is just from experience. I'm saying that, like, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, so just I don't know, just throwing some.
No, I think you're right.
Thoughts in the brain.
There's definitely an issue that certain factions have got incredibly in 40k. Have got incredibly limited options, and I think, and we will get onto 40k this video, but I want to start off with the positive stuff and the K47 and stuff, because that's the bit that's the best bit, right? But there are just, I think one of the big problems that 40k faces at the moment is the great purge, the great Stalinist purge of models has been taking place for 2 years, and because Games Workshop has this, I frankly think, self-flagellating policy of, if we don't make models for it, or if it's not in the box, then we're not going to make rules for it. And all this has done is ripped out capabilities of factions. And like, you know, there are a lot of armies that have been around a long time in Warhammer 40k, and a lot of those armies had units that were in the game that were either made in resin or finecast or metal. So they were produced at one time in Games which was chosen not to produce them anymore. Or they never had a model, but they were actually quite an integral part of the army. For example, like Imperial Guard, they never had hardened veteran models, but they were very, very important to Imperial Guard players. It allowed you to get cheap, capable special weapons into your army. Now, over the course of the last 2 years, Games Workshop has had this policy of, what if we don't make models for it? And so they rip these things out. But all you're doing is taking armies that were designed in one state of mind, ripping things out of them, but not giving them anything back. So now they're just missing things that they were fundamentally designed to have to function.
It's just taking a brick out of the wall, and eventually,
it's like a Jenga tower. It's like a Jenga tower. You take bricks on the Jenga tower. Eventually, you take one too many bricks out, it falls over. And we've seen this with so many different factions. But anyway, going back to what I wanted to say, we'll get there in a moment. A bit of foreshadowing. We'll get there in a moment. So one of the things that I was thinking about is, it was around our Firefly conversation and them having flamethrowers and stuff like that. And one of the things that I came away from our game saying was that, I just don't think basic infantry can keep up in a pure Konflikt 47 setting. And again, I love being wrong in this game. I love being wrong, right? Because Warlord, once again, they have shown me the errors of my ways. Once again, if I dig a little bit deeper and I actually learn, read, motherfucker, read. I actually read. I go to the infantry squad datasheet and I'm like, oh yeah, rifle squad, what can it take? A flamethrower. Well, you know what? If my old timers had that flamethrower,
they would have won you the game.
It would have won me the game. It wasn't the unit that was the problem. Oh, Johnny, also, flamethrower.
Commander, it wasn't the case with you.
Also, the flamethrowers are multi-shot weapons, are arsenal of democracy.
No, I feel like
it's a voice. If it fires one shot, it doesn't get to re-roll the hit, though, because it's only fired one shot. If it fires more than one shot, then it gets to re-roll the hits.
I don't feel it is a multi-shot weapon.
We'll have to look. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
You make one shot, we'd have to look at the rule.
But the point is,
generates so many hits.
The point is that that basic every time I think basic infantry are not good in this game, I dig a bit deeper and I find that actually there's a place for them. There's a place for them.
Because otherwise, when they put it in, they'd just be like, oh, well, K47 people, they don't take that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't have a place. Wouldn't bother wasting people's time. Oh, it's there for when you're getting started, maybe, so you can kind of have a 50-50 army or whatever. But no, I think there's going to be, I think you would, I think, where, you know, I've seen a couple of comments on your channel about, you know, so to answer those questions as well, because I think it's important we kind of answer the questions.
Yeah, of course.
The previous video is, you know, do the old timers have a place in the world of the Rift? And I think genuinely, if you turned up with a 22 dice old timer,
yes,
and someone's got like 8 and a couple of Rift dice, it's GG for them. So there's definitely a place for everything. Well, I say definitely. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I sense there is a place for everything.
I mean, even the I think that. I mean, instinctively in my head, I was like, yeah, you could turn it with the old timers, start giving squads flamethrowers and stuff. And then I was like, well, what about the tanks? But, you know, for example, you know, you can still take a Sherman and then buy a Tesla turret for, and I still kind of see that as just a bolt action unit. Some people may disagree with me there, but, you know, it's.
I feel the same. I do feel that.
Because at the end of the day, there's multiple ways you can turn your regular Sherman to a Tesla Sherman. A, you can just buy a spare turret from Warlord. They do sell them. B, you can magnetize it. I mean, chop your barrel off, put a magnet on each end, and then go and get a spare plasma gun from Warhammer 40k, stick a magnet on that, and stick it on your Tesla Sherman. Congratulations. No one's going to mistake that for what it is. No, it is. Yeah, it's a Tesla unit.
You've got plasma cannons from your Lehman Russes and stuff rocking around, then you've got to use for them. And
also, you've got the fact that I don't know if it's for every faction, but I know for the Soviets, for example, they can put flamethrowers on their T-34s. So you can take a T-34 with a basic gun and then have the flamethrower to help deal when the Shrek Wolf and turn up.
You keep saying things which are like leading me to sort of contrast it with GW. You know, we are, you know, big fans of Warlord and the way they operate, and we aren't total. You know, some people would maybe suspect that we're total like, Warlord fanboys, and therefore we wouldn't say anything that maybe impacts their business or would reduce the amount of models they sell. But like, Warlord are a much more benevolent company. They know you've got plasma guns knocking about in your bits box. They know you can magnetize up some Shermans, magnetize up some Crusaders, that kind of thing. They're not going to be like iffy about that. You know, even if you're in Warlord HQ, I'm sure, just because simply they know the right way to do things is, you know, once you got that taste, you're strapping a couple of old plasma cannons to your Sherman, but
you had to buy the
when
Sherman.
When you want those Style Trooper, that you know where to go, and it's going to be Warlord. So,
100%. I think, look,
like, whereas GW are like, everything must be from us. We are a jealous, like, you know, company. Not that I want to get in, but
we're not going to get into that side of things. Sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm not having bad beef with them. Just
look,
playing along. I get an impression.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I think it's we are very open and we're very honest, and there are some game systems for Warlord that we struggle with. I think, you know, we won't get into this massively. Just quick off the cuff comment. We've talked about things like Pike and Shot, epic scale games. We've like a brick of like 80. Yeah, Black Powder, you've got a brick of like 80 dudes, you roll 4 dice. And it's like, I would quite like to roll like maybe 8 dice, you know, just a little bit more kind of thing.
I love this with dice, and those games just don't support that kind of itch for me. I have played Black Powder Epic. It was like a few times. Will's got like loads. All of it.
Yeah.
Loads of it. It takes him like a year to pay an army, but whatever.
Yeah.
But so I played, and it's a great game in its own world. You know, it's a great game. It's a great system. But it just, and again, I would have like 2,000 Macedonian pikemen by now if it wasn't for the Hail Caesar system. Just isn't, you know, it's fun. I'm happy to play it, but it's not. It's never sort of drawn me in, if that makes sense. I'm not going to be here. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, like, you know,
personal preference. And I think one thing, I know we're going to turn this from like we're criticizing Warlord or a game that Warlord sells into actually a compliment. So we are ball washing a little bit, but I think what Warlord understands is a game for everyone is a game for no one. Some people will have no interest in Konflikt 47 and never will have any interest in Konflikt 47. And they will be like, because even if they're bolt action players, they'll have no interest in Konflikt 47 because they're like, I'm here to play history. And some people will have no interest in bolt action and they're like, I'm here to play Romans versus Celts. I love Romans versus Celts. And some people will only play tiny scale games. But if you try and make every game the same, then all you're doing is basically making all your games for one audience rather than making games for different audiences and capturing different parts of the market. And Warlord games, they're I don't think you can say it's about Games Workshop anymore because they've really tried to make a lot of their games very similar. They've basically gone, look how big 40k is. What if we just made every game 40k roughly? I'm speaking in broad generalizations, and I think Warlord Games understands that. Different strokes, different folks. That, you know, if everyone liked the same thing, there'd only be one pasta sauce, but there are actually 1,000 different pasta sauces. Yeah.
One way of thinking about them.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, I think, you know, just the last thing I want to say is about the basic infantry. Every time I think that they're rubbish.
Turns out, because I was one of those people who's like, I have no interest in K7.
Yeah.
It's not for me. But turns out it is for me.
Now, we've touched a little bit upon, we've talked a lot about Konflikt 47. We've done our post analysis. And I think, you know, what's quite interesting, our post analysis here was a little bit different to our quick post analysis immediately after the game, which I think always shows the benefit of actually sleeping on something and thinking about it once you've got time for a bit of perspective. But let us now move on a little bit to the topic that we said we were going to get to last week, but we're going to get to this week instead, which is Warhammer 40k. Because we've talked a lot about Konflikt 47 and we've alluded a little bit to 40k today. But let's actually get into Warhammer 40k right now. Specifically, I actually want to talk, because I'm someone that still plays the game. And everyone knows my thoughts on where the game is right now and what I'd like to see changed and all that kind of stuff. But I'm still in the ecosystem. And so,
you still enjoy it. You still love your 40k, don't you?
Yeah, of course. You know, I still love a 40k. I'm still in the ecosystem. But what I think would be very, very valuable is to actually talk to someone who has essentially left Games Workshop behind. And
I'm a Games Workshop survivor, let's put it that way.
You're a Games Workshop survivor, and you know, apart from, you know, when Lewis does like a quick, like, hey, should we do like you play like you've done one day in 2 years basically. It wasn't enough to pull you back in on a permanent basis. It was just I
play 40k to hang out with the boys. I won't play 40k because I want to play 40k. If other people want to play 40k, I own countless 40k models, multiple factions. I can dust some stuff off and play. Do you know what I mean? So, but I genuinely have arrived at the point where I have just no feeling towards it. I'm not bitter, but nor am I excited by, you know, new models come out. You know, one of the boys will like post, you know, have you seen the new Blood Angels model sculpt or whatever? And I'm just like, it is a model. It just doesn't excite me in any way. And I feel like I'm really happy to have arrived at that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've just have no interest. I'd still listen to lore videos when I'm painting. You know, I'll always have a love for the 40k universe. Really enjoyed, what was that flipping limited series on Amazon that came out recently? And it had like an Unreal Tournament episode and a secret level. You know, really enjoyed that. The 40k episode of that when it came out and so on and so forth. So I love the aesthetic, but I've just no interest in the game on any level or collecting any more of it. That's kind of contextually where I stand.
And so I guess the big question is, what do you think? So firstly, take people through what factions you have, just roughly, okay. and then I would say, well, you'd start however you want, you know, whichever direction you want. I'm just throwing ideas out there. But why do you think? No, in fact, don't worry about list the factions, but then say, why do you think you've got to that place? And maybe those two things will kind of link together.
Yeah, so I've got Guard, I've got Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, Blood Angels, Dark Elder, Drakari, Death Watch, flipping out, Tau. What else? I'm trying to think. But as you can tell, and I mean, not just an army 2k of each of these factions. I'm talking 5, 10k points. I don't know what the points is these days relatively, but, you know, maybe 8th edition standard. You know, I must have 20,000 points of Blood Angel or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Fast. I'm playing Blood Angel since I was 11, and I'm flipping not far off 40 now. So
yeah,
Blood Angel since 2nd edition. And so you would think, you know, it would be like a wrench, or I'd have this like bitterness or whatever from like leaving it behind, or like, right, I'm selling everything. I haven't sold my armies, still got them boxed up, still got my favorite models on shelves, that kind of thing in the gaming room. So, you know, and I'm still happy to have a big collection of it. I do need to clear some space, but, you know, I'm very fortunate. Mrs. Scholar is super chill. She gets my wargaming addiction. So she's never sort of never asked me to clear any space in the attic or anything like that. But but yeah, it might seem weird to like have heavily invested so much in a war game and yet just not play it and not buy more of it or anything like that. I think part of that might be...
Can I just cut in one second? And I think it's very important for people to understand that you are not a Warhammer 40k collector. You are a player. You've always been player first.
I've never been a collector. I like building models. I enjoy the feeling of having completed painting a squad, but painting has always been, and I've always been very strongly of the opinion that painting your own army gives you that connection to the army where it's your army. So I think it's an important part of the process to paint your own army, but it's always been just a necessity. I'm by no means a collector. I am a wargamer player through and through.
Okay.
That's a very important point to mention, yeah, for sure. But I guess it started, I started to leave 40k and GW behind as a whole, because that's not to mention the fact that I have like vast collections of vampire counts. I've got so much Warhammer Fantasy. I have Age of Sigmar. Do you know what I mean? I've been really into GW for a very, very long time. I'm fortunate enough to have the ability to collect whatever I wanted at any given time, if that makes sense. Just, you know, basically.
Well, I think we're lucky in our local area. A lot of stuff's available secondhand as well as
yeah, and also just how, you know, northwest of the UK has a massive wargaming community. Like, it's second only to the Pewter Belt in Nottingham, essentially, I think, in terms of concentration of war games. I don't know, I'm totally making that up, but it always felt that way to me. I've always had just no limit to the amount of opponents. If I wanted a game, I could get a game, kind of thing. But I think it started with the idea that I would, the frustration that every like 40k experiences, which is like when your unit gets updated or your army gets updated. But that was never really a massive problem until they started doing these vast swathes of updates around 9th edition and sort of that time period in GW. So they started doing that for all their models where, you know, I'd be really into 40k for 3 months, playing 40k non-stop. Then Sam would be like, oh, do you fancy a game of Warhammer Fantasy? And then I'd be, you know, totally addicted to Warhammer Fantasy for a few months. And every time I'd switch or go back, I'd be like, oh, what? That doesn't work anymore? Oh, that doesn't exist anymore? That's crap now, or whatever. And I think that's a frustration that a lot of people can, you know, agree with, you know, like, or when your army gets nerfed. And if you've only got a small collection of something, you've literally got like 3,000 points of a faction, and maybe it's your first faction or a faction that you've been really, you've sort of thought, one day I'm going to get Skaven, and then you get your Skaven, and then you're enjoying your scave, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And then also I always mention this, thing about, life gets busy. Maybe people go to university, people get married, have kids, whatever it may be. And in that, or just generally, get a career where they need to commit more time to working late hours, or, all of these multitude of factors. I'm listing barely in it, one of a few of them. But that means that you don't have the time to play all the time, or there'll be periods where you're away and then you come back and you're like, oh, that army that I always looked forward to. I spent like 6 months of my life like building and painting. And by the time I'd actually completed the force that I decided to treat myself to, it was already almost unusable, because you've only got this set of models. You haven't got a vast collection to dip into. And then when your vast collection starts getting legends, put into legends, so then you've got less and less to dip into. That was kind of part of it. And yeah, there's frustration. That would be like my frustrated relationship with GW. But then on a like totally unrelated to any of their business practices or their approach to the war games, it's like, man, there is so much out there. You don't even know. Like, I'll always be grateful, flipping heck, to the existence of Warhammer, because they're such a massive company that, like, I think a sort of natural progression might be you get into wargaming, you're going to probably start with GW. And then for the longest time, you kind of don't even realize or take seriously other war games. Everyone you know plays GW, your sibling, your friends play GW. You maybe go into the local shop and someone's playing some flipping Star Wars game or some Battleship game, and you take an interest, have a chat with the people. Yeah, oh, what's that? Oh, that looks really cool, man. Oh, I love that model. Can I pick it up? Yeah, sure, man. That kind of thing. But then you don't ever realistically consider playing another game. Does that make sense? It's kind of like with the bolt action versus K47 thing that we've mentioned. I'm a bolt action player. I've never realistically considered playing K47, even though it's been there all along, right?
Yeah.
I haven't realistically considered playing another game. But then one day I did play another game that wasn't GW. And, you're seeing these models in your feed, if you're like, on Instagram or following people or whatever, social media, or you're watching YouTube videos such as, your own and that kind of thing. And I'm sure people are, signed up to your channel because they started collecting guard. They were like, right, I need to find out how to run these guys properly. They're going to come across you eventually because, of course, you are the guard on the internet, in my opinion. And then, if I could,
I'll take the compliment.
Yeah, if I could.
I'm very bad at taking compliments, but I'm just gonna, for the sake of the flow of the conversation, I'll take it.
It's the pace, isn't it? If you're like putting in YouTube like how to use Carskin, how to use Ogrins or something like that, you're a couple of clicks away from one of your videos. You've got so much content out there these days. But that's not the point I'm making. What I'm saying
can't fit my head through this doorway anymore.
They're looking at themselves and they've got like 500 quid deep into a bolt action army that they're like, well, how did this even happen? But it's because you're like, you tempted them into it, if that makes sense. And then once the crack start to appear and you start playing other games, you're then spending more time away from GW, or you really get into flipping Dystopian Wars, for example. I don't know, that's not really a big game, but do you know what I mean? Or even like, I know it's recently got 4th edition. Me and my friends religiously play 2nd edition and we'll never move forward. But that's another conversation for another day.
Okay.
But you take some time away or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You just don't play 40k for a bit, or your interest is elsewhere. You still may be playing it with your mates, but your focus is elsewhere. And then again, you come back, oh, my old army doesn't work, oh, this doesn't work, this, that, and the other. Oh, I was top tier, now I'm bottom tier, or, oh, I'm still bottom tier and it's been 6 months, or so on and so forth. And it's just kind of this organic kind of, it starts, the sort of scabs start to peel away from your eyes, so to speak.
The scales fall from your eyes.
Yeah, the scales fall from your eyes, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. And you kind of realize, wow, there's so much out there. And for me, I sort of mentioned this last week, or a couple of weeks ago, which is there just comes a point where you have to make a choice. GW, if you want to play it, I guess what I'm building up to in all this is, if you want to play GW and enjoy games, win games, or even just play casually, you cannot even play GW games on a casual level without doing a serious amount of homework and like keeping up on the treadmill. Do you know what I mean? You're running and running and running and running and running on that flipping treadmill, and you're slipping back towards the edge. Do you know what I mean? And you just constantly like, constant update this. Now this army's good. It's kind of what I mentioned earlier about like, you know, you could have earned your stripes in 40k. You could undeniably be a good player of 40k, but the goalposts are constantly shifting. Now, some people might say that's great. You can never rest on your laurels. But the other side, and that's, you know, a very valid point. You know, it keeps even the best players on their toes. Great. That's a great point. But you're also losing a lot of people just feel like they're just fatigued. They just can't be bothered to keep up with it. There's no bitterness, there's no anger or salt. It's like, man, I'm just tired. I just like can't be bothered to even, I don't care. I don't even care if the rules are free now. I don't care. You know what I mean?
They're not, by the way.
I don't, you know, I spent 30 quid on a codex and now it's outdated and I've got to buy another one. Yeah, you know, that was an issue back then. They could make everything free. They could do anything. They could send me free armies. I'd just be like, sorry, I just don't care anymore. Okay. I'm like over it, if that makes sense. And I'm just having a ball because if I buy off Osprey Games, I buy a Ronin game and I go to the Perry Twins website and I spend like 20 quid and I buy some flipping samurai models and I paint them up on a Sunday afternoon. And, you know, takes me no time. You know, me and Sam texting away. Oh, he's got sort of monks. I've got flipping samurai. We play a few games of it. Then we're like, oh, Osprey do some cool games. Oh, Gaslands. Let's buy that book. Do you know what I mean? They don't support their games with models. It's just a book with rules. Model ambiguous, is it called? Like, there's a games like that, but it's a model ambiguous game to use what you
Agnostic.
like. Agnostic, that's it. Well done. And then I flip in, go play Gaslands for a few weeks or a few months. And then I go back, oh, do you fancy again? And then JP's like, those samurai models on your shelf look cool. I'm like, yeah, we can have a game of it if you want, bro. Pull out the book, play the game. Oh, look, it is exactly as it was when I left it. Every model is exactly as it was. Doesn't mean I can't try new things. Then you know what? Oh, that was really fun. I'll buy some more samurai. Oh, but I've never tried using mounted knights before in this game. Do you know what I mean? And you can just put something down, have fun with something else. It's almost like, you know, when they say like, God is a jealous God. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, flipping GW is a jealous God that demands all of your...
You shall worship no other God but me. You shall not covet false idols.
You know what I mean? Shall not have false idols. Do you know what I mean? I'm telling you right now, flipping being a wargaming pagan is absolutely sick, man. You know,
You're in the forest, eating berries and mushrooms. You don't know what they're gonna do, but they taste nice. Woo! It's not you're not in the rat race. You've moved out to a cabin in Alaska. And you're just like, you're living off the land, baby. You're living off the land.
You're off grid. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
You know, you know that river is where the fish are. You know where that bush is where the berries grow. And it's not like you go back there next season and the berries aren't there anymore. The berries have turned to shit. Berries are still there, man. Still growing.
Now I've got my stall in the center. I'm making my masks, baby.
Yeah.
But
can I just jump in 1 second? Just one very quick second.
Yeah.
Because I want to. But I wanted to give you that chance to riff, and I'm going to let you keep riffing. I think people will find this in very, because they hear from me a lot, and I think it's important that they hear from someone who isn't me. I think that's very, very important. But one thing I would just say to complement what you have said is when I first got into bolt action properly, not when you tried to get me into it the first time, but the second time.
People wouldn't believe it, but I had to really peck your head to get you into bolt action.
I was deep in the cult of Games Workshop at the time. And the thing is, if Games Workshop hadn't made a lot of the changes they'd made, I'd probably still be deep in the cult of Games Workshop. But that's a different conversation for a moment. But well, I bought my Japanese army, and I have bought my Japanese army, and I had it about 7 or 8 years. I've had it for 7 or 8 years at this point. And every single model is still viable. Every single one. Every single from my shitty little mountain gun, the chode gun, all the way through to my my different tanks. Everything is still viable, and that has literally survived 3 editions, like end of first, second, third edition. And do you know what, Johnny, though? Have I... One second. No, I've got to make it. I'm not letting you talk. Let me just say. The big thing is this. I haven't added anything to my Japanese force, but does that mean I've not spent any more money with Warlord? I have one army, and I don't go... And I shall never spend another penny ever again. I am now fully satisfied as a war gamer. I go, they're good. Don't need to worry about them. I can pull them out and have fun with them every single time. And now Germans, and now Americans, and now Brits, and now Soviets, and now Konflikt 47.
Mood, and I've Japanese, Imperial Japanese Army mood, and I'm going to. I never had bamboo fighters in my collection, so when you come back to it, there's always more to expand into.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I like to be able to leave an army and then come back to it and expand it further and just like have fun with it. And I can do what I like. I'm totally in control of my wargaming experience.
Yeah.
And just to add to the point you were making, which I wanted to say it because I wanted you to riff on it, is the fact that not only that, but the Japanese weren't your first army. I dragged you to a wargaming shop and made you buy a faction, and you went Soviets because they were the most close to Imperial Guard in your perspective at the time. Played a few games of them, didn't enjoy them, sat in a box from first edition or something like that. Yeah, first edition. JP has then bought you were like, just have them, I don't want them.
Yeah.
I then played with the Russians, expanded the force because it was a good base force, a good base 1,000 points. I then expanded that to like 1,500 points with stuff that I wanted. I wasn't really feeling them, not my play style either. JP then bought that army off us for like a song and a prayer. And then...
I think he bought us fried chicken for a game night.
Yeah, he literally was like, he's a bro,
Yeah.
Resources change hands and that kind of thing. And then he expanded that army, and he has won tournaments in second and third edition with an army that essentially has sat in a box for 95% of its existence until he became a Soviet player, and he used that army every week. So you can buy an army that's 3 editions old, and it has the capability to win tournaments later. Like, you could not say the same about GW. It's laughable. It's a literally abstract
statement. Yeah.
It's an abstract concept to someone who is only experienced 40k. So I think so much, and this is a point I really want to make clear, is like, I'm hoping people are sort of picking up on it, but it was that idea that, like, when I said I'm happy to have arrived at this position, it's not just because I'm having the best time wargaming I've ever had, but also because it's not a salty thing. You have so many people, who don't like GW because of their practices and because of the sort of stuff that I mentioned at the beginning, the kind of frustrations, the friction between the player and the way the company operates, or the way the game is developed. But you'll notice none of that. I am none of the reasons why I play 40k are because of that. I was still playing 40k when I felt that way.
That's true. That's very true.
When I don't play 40k is because I'm having so much fun with everything else. That is the reason why I don't play 40k anymore, is because there are so many excellent systems developed. I'm sure everyone out there, everyone who's a wargamer has had ideas in their own mind about if I were to make a game. And if you did that, think for a second, you've got this idea in your head, oh, caveman battles, flipping space laser dudes, whatever your idea in your mind is for it. If I were to one day be a successful gaming company, this would be my flagship game. Well, you know what? There's a lot of people who've actually made that step, who've done that game. And every single one of these games is a passion project made by someone who really cares, built it from the ground up. And it's good enough that someone has published that rule set.
Yeah.
Or that rule has become, say, in the world of historic gaming, like that rule set has become the chosen rule set of the community to represent the War of the Roses, the Barony Wars, something like that, you know, Roman this period. Like, so every single game, its caliber is because it is a good game. If it's an alternate game to GW and you've heard about it, there's probably because it's worth playing. That would be sort of my perspective. So I've done, you know, I've dipped my toe into so many different games now, and every single one of them I've had an absolute blast. And there's also that pleasure, you know, when you go to your local cafe and you get your bacon sandwich, and you do that instead of going to, say, Greg, not hating on Greg's
or
here,
Mackey's breakfast.
Or Mackey's breakfast would be a better example. There's something on an almost, and I don't want to sound weird here, I've eaten too many of the the flipping
mushrooms,
polytheist wargaming mushrooms, but there's something you can't ascribe to it. It's something that speaks to you internally, that you know that, like, not just on a like, oh, it's good to support your local economy kind of thing on a like factual level, but it's better to go to your local cafe. Oh, you're right, love. Da, 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 da. You know, the woman in there knows what you've been up to. You've got chatting to them. I
can add to this. I go to the same curry place pretty much, if not every Friday, every other Friday, and I order for collection, and it's a really nice place, and they now know me by name because I order online and then I collect it, and I always pay in cash. And they go, and they'll see me walk through the door, and they'll smile, and be like, "All right, Tim," and I'm like, "All right, man," and he'll turn round to like the guys, like, because it's a proper restaurant that happens through takeaway, and so they're all wearing like the nice uniforms, and they're very, very good. It's not a chain or anything; it's just a local place. And they'll turn round to the guys behind the bar and be like, "Tim's here," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, no problem," and they'll just go and get my order. I haven't even to say, "Oh, I'm here for collection." They know I collect every time. They know my name.
When they put it under the heater, you know what I mean, to wait for you to pick it up, they're like, "That's Tim's bag."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yes. All the waiters know who you are. And then when you rock up, they're like, "Oh, just grab Tim's bag." Do you know what I mean? They don't They grab the 2 pilau rice, the naan, They have to read off the ticket. They just know it, right?
Yeah, they just know it. Because I do order the same thing every time because, you know, autism.
Of course. So...
Why would you change?
And it's not like, you know, to talk about the Mackies, you know, you get, how do they even know your name? Well, because you sat there one day because you're flipping curry's not ready yet because they're having a busy Saturday night. There's a flipping birthday party and whatever. So you're like, to the person, you know, polishing the glass behind the bar, you know, "Oh, you up to much this weekend?" Do you know what I mean? You just end up making conversation. And then before you know it, you get to know people on a friendly acquaintance level.
Well, one time my order was like, I had to wait 20 minutes. They said, "Oh, sorry, it's very busy tonight. You're going to have to wait for your order. Do you want a free drink?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, thanks, man."
Before you know it, you start, when talking about takeaway stuff, do you know what I mean? It's getting totally sidetracked for a second. But before you know it, oh, wait a minute. That portion of rice just a little bit bigger. Oh, they've chucked an extra garlic bread in there.
Get a few poppadoms now.
You forgot to put your drink on the order. but they put it in the bag because they know that's what you like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of relationship. It's not sterile. There is soul to it.
Human connection.
Yeah, human connection, which is, we aren't just biological machines. There's, you know, that whether that is a evolutionary thing or whatever, it's something that's important and something that means things to people. And so when you get into the GW community, the 40K community, you know, I have made some of my closest friends to this day. People have spoken at my wedding, so on and so forth, you know, been there for me in the hardest times of my life. I've met through playing GW games. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not dissing that community by any means. What I'm simply saying is, when you play, say, for example, Burrows and Badgers, okay, it's blown up recently. It's got a new edition, loads of people on there.
Oh, the new edition came out and it was well received.
It was incredibly well received.
It's never been done.
But the owner of the game writes the rules, sculpts the models. Him and his wife run the flipping Facebook group, and they've got a community of like plenty of regular posters in the group.
Yeah.
They respond. If you post a flipping picture, they're like, love that. You know, do you know what I mean? And it's not just promotion. You can ask rules questions, or like you can, you know, I did a few battle reports for Burrows and Badgers and that kind of thing. And he like commented and was like, oh, by the way, like when I was designing this rule, I felt it should be interpreted that way. And you're like, oh, cheers, man. Thank you. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of thing. And it's not just because it's a small game. The point I want to make is this: with a new influx of players, and this happened in 3rd edition Bolt Action, you'll know exactly what I'm saying when I say this. With a big influx of players, people are like, in the rulebook on page X, it says but da. And they kind of approach, they bring their bitterness, their salt to that new community.
Yeah.
But that community is such a warm, welcoming place full of people who know each other's names and so on and so forth, that it's got a soul to it.
Yeah. That
people like kind of like the new people quickly learn, that's not how we do things here.
That's not how we do things here.
And that sort of we don't do the negativity here, thank you very much. Like that's not the, you know, we kind of, and also it's like, yeah, it's just got a better vibe. Do you know what I mean? It's just more positive, more simple.
I really think.
Why would I go? I've just absolutely no interest in GW because there's just so much more out there. It's like. So I think GW seems small to me now because the whole world is what I'm in.
I absolutely get that, and I on so many different levels basically agree with everything that you said, and like I think it's so, you know, it's when I think what's happened with me with let's go back to my current favorite game, Konflikt 47, right? I think what's really happened with me is I'm looking at Konflikt 47 and I'm looking at. Like, so let's put the business practices of Games Workshop to one side. Okay.
Yeah. Just
we're going to come back to it in a moment. But let's look at the sort of the way the game has been developed. Think of it like a video game. The way the game has been developed, and it's like I look at the way Games Workshop does things. A company which should have decades and decades of experience behind it, should be a leader in innovation and trailblazing game mechanics. And I look at that, and then I look over at Konflikt 47, and now, as crazy as it sounds, 40K seems like so last year. Like the mechanics, the way the game is updated, the way the rules are, like I've got to buy my codex, which has a code in the back of the codex, and then I have to go to an app, and then I have to put the code in the app to unlock like the actual like updated points and everything. And
so news to me.
It's like, what? Why wouldn't I just go to the digital army list and everything's there?
Yeah.
Why is the rules commentary like this is I think this is a really damning indictment of Games Workshop. I'm sorry, I think it is. Why is the rules commentary for your game what is essentially a fancy name for an FAQ? Okay. Why is
I didn't know what the rules is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The rules commentary is now longer than the core rules. So it's over and that's in 2 years. This isn't an FAQ. Yeah. This is an FAQ which is like, oh, it's covering this decade. It's not an FAQ which is covering like decades of questions which have cropped up on every single thing. So it's like, okay, so yeah, this is like somewhat, someone sometime was like, hey, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what happens? It's just the core rules themselves are just not fit for purpose and are so clunky. And that's what, by the way, that's one document, Johnny. You've then got the balanced data slate, which is another document, which is now, and to be fair, they're a lot more spread out, where each faction, so it's 26 pages long, each faction has at least 1 page dedicated to it, to how your faction has been updated from the codex you bought. So if I look at my codex and look at Lord Solar Leontis, my new Supreme Commander, those rules are wrong. Now, if I go on the app, what I've paid for, and I've paid my codex for, those rules are wrong. His actual updates are in the balanced data slate on a separate document.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts. It's just cringe, man. It's just cringe. It's like...
And then, but wait, there's more. There's more.
I'm so chill now because it's just
Yeah. But wait, there's more. So I've got the rules commentary. I've got the balanced data slate. I then have a separate FAQ for my code. So it's not that the balanced data slate is your FAQ. No. The balanced data slate is one thing, but there's a separate document, which is another thing, which is your FAQ. And then you've got the Munitorum Field Manual, which is another document, which has all of your points in a digital. All of these documents are digital. Why are these things separate? Have a digital codex. You have the digital rules. Why not just update that data slate? Why is it?
I totally forgotten. I mean, it was kind of going that way, and it wasn't this bad. But
it's bad, man.
I'd said obviously in my riff about like how, you know, you come back and stuff's changing. Who has the time to like keep up? You got to like flipping constantly be updating yourself and learning new stuff and that kind of thing. And that can be fun. That can be fun when you care. If you
to quote Step Brothers, to quote Step Brothers, I'm not making myself clear. I don't give a fuck.
I got a belly full of white dog crap and you let this shit on me. But the point is, if you're at the point, you may have not realized, you know, I'm speaking out to all the bros out there, you know, all the, you know, who are like, maybe you just haven't, you know, when you like have a bad habit and then someone points it out to you and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to stop doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, but you even like, it just didn't occur to you that was, you know, whatever. Or like some aspect of your life that you've been doing your whole time, like, why don't I just do this instead? If you are at the point where you no longer enjoy the frequent updates, the frequent updates are supposed to be there for you to enjoy. This is the thing.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be there to keep the game fun, to keep it fresh, to keep it exciting. If you're at the point where it's just a chore, then you might not care anymore about the game of 40k. Doesn't mean you're not a war gamer. Come this way. Come in. The water's nice and warm. I'm
gonna say something now, man. And I think this. If anyone watches this video,
I'm going to take this letter off GW for this.
Dude, I said a lot worse, man. I think I'm gonna say something now, which is going to cut like a lightning bolt through to a lot of people who are going to watch this video, because I feel it, you feel it, we've all felt it at one point in our time, in our lives, okay? That feeling at the back of your head, that thought that you don't want to acknowledge exists of, do I want to play 40k? And you don't want to, don't look at that, it's scary, I've spent all this money, don't look at it, it's scary.
This takes us full circle. Do you know what I mean? I'm so invested in 40k. I've spent as much as anyone Do you know what I mean? And I have zero regrets. I don't look at those models on my shelf and go, ah. You know what I mean? I go, oh, you know, it's part of my collection kind of thing. And maybe I'll go back. And when I want to hang out with the boys, you know. But if you and your friends are kind of frustrated with 40k, but you enjoy wargaming together, and to you it's about the fun times with your wargaming group, and it's about meeting new people and traveling around, going to events, or however you exercise your wargaming experience, if that makes sense. But 40k is not the fun part of that anymore. Then you can just try a different game.
You're not betraying anyone. You're not letting anyone down. You're not wasting your money. Like the models don't. The models aren't. The models aren't made out of milk. They don't go off. Not made out of milk. The models don't go off.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not just saying this to like sort of subtle punt on like come play K47 with us. And that's not what I'm saying at all. Not in any way. I'm saying Osprey Games have a vast collection of books that you can just buy, a self-enclosed war game, you know, and you can just pick that up for like under 20 quid and you're in. And then you just Google like spaceship model 3D printed or whatever, find some stuff you like, that's your army. That's the stuff you're going to use. Do you know what I mean? Getting, as I said, Ronin, flipping Gasland. You know, there's other games out there which do update, are bigger. You know, Malifaux's big in the US, I believe. Me and the boys, we love a bit of Malifaux because it's a really complex game. It really scratches that, like, complexity, deep interaction. Every model, like, interacts, and it's just, like, it's a real complex tapestry of a game. You know, that's fun too. Then you've got flipping, you know, games. You know, I've just dropped 200 quid on a game system.
That's dead.
Spartan Games went into administration. Like, I don't even know. I'm going to pull a date out of the air. Google it for me. Jamie, get this up. When did Spartan Games go bankrupt? Because I just spent 200 quid on a flipping army for a games on eBay for a games company that does not exist anymore. It's been taken over, bought out by another game, War Cradle. I hear they're doing great things. But me and my boys...
2017.
2017, yeah, like we're getting 8 years ago. Do you know what I mean? And that, you know, that's kind of part of the epiphany is like, I'm still spending money on a game that basically doesn't exist anymore because me and my boys enjoy that game. I'm not going to tournaments. I'm not seeking it out. But what, you have one friend that also enjoys that game and you fancy a bit of a break from 40k? I'm not even saying leave 40k behind. I'm saying you can go and get yourself into another game. And flipping, when 40k gets new edition, when your codex top of the pile anymore, whatever put you off playing it, or you just get that itch to get back into 40k again, you know, you just see a model and you're like, yeah, I want that, or whatever it is, then you can go back, you know, have some fun.
People feel like they can't play other games, and you can play 40k and other stuff, and they exist alongside each other, and they're fine.
Yeah, and then do you know what? Lo and behold, when you and your mates are saying, should we play a bit of X this weekend, Ronin this weekend? You're like, yeah, sure. Your little side game's still there, but I must warn you, once you start down this path, there is only one way, and that is that you will end up like me, with a massive collection of GW models that you just don't care about anymore.
I don't think that's true. You see, actually, I don't think that's true. And this is... are you okay for time, by the way? Because we can.
I'll need to wrap it up in a few minutes. Okay. So we'll get our traditional... We'll wrap it up and then have 20 minutes of additional discussion.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. So I don't think that's true, though, because I actually have a really important perspective. And it's something that I had recently, very, very, very recently. Towards about 6 months ago, it was actually around the time the 9th edition, the 10th edition Guard Codex came out. I realized that whilst the Codex was quite nice and flashy, the we lost basically half of the half the units of the guard were gone, and so they were some of my most expensive, some of my favorite. My Macarius super heavy tank, a Forge World model that had actually been bought for me by someone in my community, was like,
so it has a lot of meaning to
has a lot of meaning to me, was gone. This wasn't just a model, it was, as you said, you have that connection, right? And I have a Medusa, and the Medusa's name is Jonathan Davies, because Jonathan Davies bought it for me, and it was funny to be like, Jonathan's farming now. Like, it's gone. So I realized, and then what happened was, shout out to community member Chansey. He's been pestering me to get into Horus Heresy for a while. And so what happened is, I was like, okay, I'll look at the Horus Heresy militia rules. Like they're basically the Imperial Guard, but before 40k. And I looked at these rules and I went, this is a better Imperial Guard army in 30k than what actually exists in 40k right now. And what's very interesting about these is that these rules have been out for 2 years. And when they had first come out, 2 years before I started looking, 2.5 years ago, when I started looking at them, I went, oh yeah, these are fine, but I'm not interested. And I was like, what? And the reason I wasn't interested because 40k was giving me everything that I wanted. 2 years later, 40k was no longer giving me what I wanted. And that's when I started searching out, because it's like what we said before. I get the same curry every single time. I know what I like. My tastes haven't changed. And I have an unbelievable amount of Guard. I've never stopped buying Imperial Guard. Like, it's not like I got to 2,000 points and stopped. I don't need 22 Lieben Russes, but I like building and painting Lieben Russes, so I keep building and painting them.
What's 22 Predators, man?
Yeah.
Literally 22 Predators. I've got a boxed up flipping Baal Predator if anyone wants it.
Yeah. But the point is that, like, it really hammered home to me that I hadn't changed, but 40k had changed. And it made me, and you just said something, which I think you said, oh, you've got all these, you will end up like me, and you'll have all these models that you don't care about. And I disagree with that on a very, very fundamental level, because I will bet you like £100 right now, live in front of, well, not live, but in front of these people, if Games Workshop launched Warhammer 40k Classic Hammer Edition, and it was a return to the, like, they did what they did with Warhammer Old World, because basically without anyone realizing it, they've actually Age of Sigmar'd 40k. They've blown it up, made an entirely new game, and it's not the same. And I don't play Age of Sigmar, I play Warhammer Fantasy. No matter what GW did, I never got into what Age of Sigmar. The moment they brought Warhammer Fantasy back via the Old World, I'm 4 armies deep, hundreds of pounds deep. I know what I want to play, Games Workshop. You can't make me play something else. I know what I want to play. So I would bet you right now £100 if Games Workshop announced we are bringing Warhammer 40k Classic Edition back. It is essentially 4th edition remastered, and there's no Primaris in there. Some people will say that's a good thing, that's a bad thing, but let's just, maybe the Primaris come later, but we just say everything that existed between like 3rd and 7th edition, it's here, remastered as you liked it. I bet me and you would play a game of that next week.
Oh yeah, and I'd be loving it, and I would be back in. That's why I haven't sold up the models, because the existence of Old World, you are 100% right. I will not take that bet, because you are right. Now, I have no interest in, I love the collection. I wouldn't have my Imperial Knights on my shelf in my gaming room if I didn't like the look of them, the aesthetic of them, big stompy robots, all of that. I care about my models. I have a connection to them, my models. I painted those models. First army I ever airbrushed. First time I ever tried X, Y, and Z, do you know what I mean, in a painting scheme. First army I won a tournament, whatever, do you know what I mean? I've got a long and storied history and relationship with my 40k collection. It means a lot to me. I just have no interest in playing the game system of 40k.
Because it's about what we said before.
40K. I love 40k.
This is what we're coming back to before. You are a war gamer, and you know what you are a player first. So it is actually a game. It is actually not a business practice, not even all the frustration things. It is the reason you don't play Warhammer 40k, and as a result do not buy Warhammer 40k, is because the game that currently exists has changed from what you did like to now something you don't like, and it's that simple.
Yeah, and the change was just like, I get what they're trying to do, and I appreciate the amount they must invest in, like, constantly trying to balance, constantly updating, blah, 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 blah. But, like, as I said, it's also the fatigue of just, like, I just don't care. Like, there just came a point where there was an update, and I was like, I just don't care.
One update every year is fine.
If GW said, we are releasing Classic 40k, we're going to release this rule, but it's going to be 200 quid. Leather-bound bad boy.
Yes.
Goldly flipping whatever. And we are going to release this once, and we are never going to change the rules. If one faction's crap, you'll play that faction for the love of the game. If one faction's broken, yeah, that faction's going to win every tournament. You're going to have to learn how to beat it. You're going to actually have to skill up and learn how to beat that. Whatever. But the game is just, this is it. It's Warhammer Classic, and it will always be Warhammer Classic. Then I'm in. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but this is what would happen, right? This is a good thing, by the way. The people that want the constant changes, balance patches, cutting edge, they would continue playing New Hammer. And the people that wanted that, the people that are like us, would go to Classic Hammer. And when someone from New Hammer got frustrated, crashed out, and was like, I'm going to try out Classic Hammer, and they started bringing the most broken stuff, do you know what would happen? We'd go, we don't do that here.
Unity. We don't do it. We don't do it like.
And this is something I've noticed. It's what's funny. Something I've noticed with Warhammer Old World recently is Old World is not balanced. Warhammer Fantasy was never balanced. Old World is not balanced. There's been a lot of people crashing out of 40k, coming into Old World, picking up, trying to break the game. I played a game the other day where someone brought like 13 dwarf war machines, and it's just like a total skew list. And the thing is basically it's just like, we don't do that here.
And also, I don't even
40k
really
players don't go from where you've come from and make the place you're going to. Don't bring your baggage with you. If you want to play the broken skew, don't try and be a big fish in a little pond. Okay, we're all the same size fish here. Okay, no one minds you winning, but we don't do that here.
I don't even mind if people do that, if that makes sense, and they religiously stick to doing that, and they want to play the game their way, and that's just the way they do war games. They always get the most juice out of them and of the faction that they're playing. I don't mind. I don't have criticism of that, and I will still play them. That's just a challenge. Do you know what I mean? So it's not not wanting to have to. Do you know what I mean? Like, God.
There is a problem.
It's just another. It's just another 2.5 hours match. You know what I mean? It's just a bit of fun.
There is a. I actually do disagree, and I know, and the reason I disagree, I used to think the same thing. But
let me finish my point.
It creates an arms race. That's it. That's my point.
But what I was going to say is, because quickly you don't have to browbeat these people. That is understandable baggage. Okay, that is an understandable way of doing things. But when you are the minority in a new wargaming community, you quickly just, do you know what I mean, learn, about the environment, if that makes sense. And you just,
I think,
and if you don't, then, sooner or later people are, if it's just one game or two games, no one cares. But if every week you're turning up like that, then well done. You're back into 40k practice. And do you know what? People just aren't going to be answering your texts. People aren't going to want to be matched up against
you. People just won't. You've got to read the room. Nobody minds you bringing a full sweaty list to A, a tournament, and B, if it's the right size tournament. Going to a GT, bring those 14 dwarf war machines. No dramas, of course. But when it's a, like, round robin local RTT.
There's like 8 people there.
Then, come on, like, read the room kind of thing.
Yeah. If you're going to a football action tournament, do you know what I mean? It's not a big brain maneuver. Like, when 3rd edition first dropped. We went to a tournament literally the day it dropped.
Yeah.
You know, or the weekend after, was it? The weekend after it dropped?
It was close, yeah.
It was really, really close. And like the multiple launch rocket systems, they needed a little bit of a tweak. So don't get me wrong, I'm not against tweaking either. I'm not against FAQs in any way. Like, it's not black and white is what I'm trying to say. It's not, oh, you like FAQs, you don't like FAQs. It's like, slow the heck down, all right? My problem with GW is the fact that it's absolutely constant. You just turn up to a player faction you'd played 2 months ago and it's different.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't a big brain maneuver if you wanted to turn up to that tournament with like 6 multiple launch rocket systems or 5 multiple. You could do that.
The thing that everyone knew was broken was broken. Well done.
Brilliant. Yeah, great victory. Yeah, defo down to your skill and tenacity.
And
as a
now
player.
no one wants to play you again.
Yeah, and next time you turn up to the tournament, people are going to wind you up. And you know what we're like? You know, people are just going to wind you up. People aren't going to be like, you can't play that. People are going to be like, oh, yeah, got your flipping mega death list again, have you? Yeah, this will be fun, mate. Yeah, glad you turned up.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, if you feel like you're being like bullied for that, you are.
Yeah.
And you are, and morally you're wrong.
So I think that's the sort of general point. Is like, you know, if the theme of the conversation was why do you not play GW when you've got so much of it, or why did you leave it behind? There's no bad beef. Do you know what I mean? It's like that, you know, it's just, it wasn't a black and white thing. It was very much just such an intricate multitude of factors. I recognize the hypocrisy in like saying that, oh, you know, Warlord needed to do some early 3rd edition tweaks when it got out into the wider community, and that was pretty quick that they did that, you know. And yeah, I'm criticizing, but now kind of things have found a rhythm. It's okay, just leave it.
It's one of those things. Nobody minds a few changes. Okay, it's very simple. Let's end on this note. Okay. It's not one thing. It's not several things. It's all the things. And that's the issue. At every level, Games Workshop, from business, it's not just business practices, but the game is good. It's at every single level of their interaction with the community, whatever capacity it may be, it's off. So that's the difference. Nobody's perfect, but you can be really bad. That's it. That's it.
It's all, you know, when you it's one of those when a relationship is new and exciting, you know what I mean? You can overlook the, you know, the red flags. But there comes a point
they're still there.
They're still there. But it comes a point where you're just over it. You're over the drama. You're over the X, Y, and Z. You're just like, you know what? It's not worth it anymore.
Peace.
You know,
I'm out.
Peace. No bad beef. Just I've got, you know, and that's it. That's just where you know, and then you just become so zen. You know, you're just why are you interacting with something which pisses you off, man?
Yeah.
What are you doing? It's your hobby. Like, literally, what are you doing? Just like, go do something else.
I'll tell you what's really interesting is a lot of people, when we have conversations like this, people will see old heads like us, the old timers like us, and they'll say, well, it's just because you don't like change and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell you right now, the vast majority of people that are part of my community are actually people that joined in 10th edition. 10th edition really has exploded the game in a way that I don't think anyone, you know, in terms of popularity, any of us could have expected. The vast majority of people in my community who joined in 10th edition are now like looking for something else. And I've been doing this content creation thing for a long time.
We've been doing the battle reports I've been doing battle reports since I was like flipping at Liverpool Reapers. You want to see me and Tim when we're
young? Yeah.
Sure, look at the Liverpool Reapers. It's still out there.
we've been interacting with Wargamers for a long time. We've been making content for a long time, and in all of that time, until recently, getting people to look outside of the Games Workshop bubble has been unbelievably hard, like almost impossible. It doesn't matter what you presented to people; they'd go, "Nah, I'm just going to play 40k." In the last 6 months, I find it easier to recruit people into other games than I do into 40k. And that sounds wild. But, you know, if I'd talked about bolt action a year ago, two years ago, no one would really be that bothered. They're like, oh, yeah, the bolt action people would watch it, but my 40k people would just go, that's just a video I'm not going to... I don't watch Tim on Wednesdays. I just don't watch him on Wednesdays. And the amount of people in my live streams that have said to me, when you used to talk about non-40k stuff, it used to annoy me. And now I actually tune out when you start talking about 40k stuff. And like the amount of people, my live streams now, like, I keep being like, okay, so, you know, I've got some stuff to talk about 40k, and everyone goes, yeah, don't give a shit. Tell us more about Konflikt 47, Mordian. And this is like a live stream with like 200, 300 people in it. I did a live stream, two last things to finish on. I've done 2 live streams so far this week at time of recording. The first one had a Konflikt 47 thumbnail, 300 people in it. Second one had an Old World thumbnail, 300 people in it. The last one I did with the 40k thumbnail, barely 100.
And that's it, isn't it? I don't
think people realize how many wargamers are pinning their hopes on 11th edition and how many Warhammer players right now are looking around. And
I just want to find my final thoughts, because I think it's a totally fair, very logical, but not accurate sort of observation that, we're just old timers, we don't like change. If I didn't like change, why do I play historic wargaming now? If I didn't like change, why do I play all these different games that I play?
True.
I play war games because I want to have fun.
That's the biggest change.
Yeah, that's the biggest change. I actually made the leap. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And as I said, I still enjoy playing it because of interacting with my friends, old friends I've known for decades, having a laugh with them. But, you know, I just like having a laugh playing different games as well. That's all it is.
And so long story short, Games Workshop, you need Classic Edition 40k. You need it tomorrow. And if you're not working on it, you should be working on it, because I guarantee you...
I'll take 3/5.
Yeah. I think I'll take 3/5 commit, because you know what gets my dick hard? Helping out my friends. But I honestly, you know, Warhammer Age of Sigmar was going for years and years and years, and then Warhammer Old World came out, and everyone jumped back onto Old World. And I tell you, you know what? Everyone thinks the direction 40k in has been good. I reckon if they brought out Warhammer Classic Edition, it would it'd be like, oh look, that's Warhammer Age of the Emperor. I'm going back to playing Warhammer 40k. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think it would feel like. But of course, that's just like our opinions, man, Johnny. That's just like our opinions. But dear viewers, let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Are we just two grumpy grognards waxing lyric about the good old days, or is there, is there something going on here? There's something going on here. Johnny, thank you so much for your time as always. It's been an extra long episode today. It's been a double bill. It's been a double bill. Yeah. But thank you so much for your time, man, and thank you for just coming back on the channel and stuff, man.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. It's so good to be back, and it's just really nice to be part of the sort of Mordian Glory community again. I was there, for a very long time. It's really, really fun making content with you, and I'm just doing this for the love of the game. At the end of the day, I'm just doing it because I like making content with you, bro.
Me too, man. Me too. And so on that note, Gentlemen, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you guys next time. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last, but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Redfield, 32, Jurgens, Miasma, Try Again, Bragg, RJ, Scorpion, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Nicholas Walsh, John Stubbs, Guardian, Varney, Sword, Fish Trombone, Pickalock, The Forged. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.